Good morning and welcome to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Big City Mayors Caucus pre-budget press conference. Caucus Chair and Halifax Mayor Mike Savage and Caucus Vice Chair Montreal Mayor Valérie Plante will deliver remarks shortly. We ask that you keep your camera off at all times and that your mics remain muted. The question period will begin after the speeches and you will be able to ask one question and one follow-up. Please introduce yourself when you have the floor and identify to whom the question is directed. To be able to ask questions, please send your name and the name of the media outlet you're working for in the comment chat. We will unmute you when it's your turn to ask a question. Thank you. And over to you, Mayor Savage.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that I'm speaking to you from the ancestral, the unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people in Nova Scotia, and here we are all treaty people. I'm Mike Savage, Mayor of Halifax and Chair of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Big City Mayors Caucus. Delighted to be joined by my friend Montreal Mayor Valérie Plante, the Vice Chair of FCM's Big Cities Mayor Caucus. I'd like to start by acknowledging the ongoing protests that we see happening across the country. Canada's big city mayors are dealing with this in a professional and responsible way and in difficult circumstances. We continue to believe that protests must always respect residents, journalists, public health, and certainly that intimidation, violent gestures, and hateful symbols have no place in our cities. I want to express my personal support for my colleague Jim Watson in Ottawa, and my hope that the situation is resolved peacefully and soon. Today we're meeting because our business is the Big City Mayors Caucus. We're meeting all day today, and throughout the day we're welcoming a number of cabinet ministers to our table to discuss the federal budget. All pandemic long, we've seen what happens when federal and municipal leaders work together. We make life better for Canadians. Whether that's building 10,000 affordable units through the Rapid Housing Initiative, or cutting emissions and creating jobs by building out public transit. Our federal municipal partnership has helped support Canadians through some very difficult times. And as we look ahead to recovery, that partnership will be just as vital. The fact is, Canada's recovery needs strong cities. Cities are the places where people live, work, and raise their family. These are the places where local leaders turn national recovery objectives into concrete results on the ground. And we are looking to budget 2022 to help us do exactly that, to build an inclusive and a sustainable recovery. So I'll share with you what we're discussing here as mayors and with our federal partners who are joining us throughout the day. First off, we're urging the federal government to prioritize affordable housing and to be very ambitious on homelessness in the upcoming budget. That includes taking steps to boost the supply of affordable housing and market rentals, both by getting more housing built faster and by actioning the federal commitment to help providers acquire existing market rentals to keep them affordable. We're especially saying, let's build on something that's working very well, the Rapid Housing Initiative. This budget is the opportunity to scale up the RHI to become the cornerstone of the comprehensive plan that we urgently need to end chronic homelessness. What an incredible legacy that would be for Canada's pandemic recovery. We're also looking to this budget to scale up local pathways to Canada's 2030 emissions targets, from landfill gas capture to community energy generation to green municipal fleets. Cities and communities are leading the way on emissions, including through our own FCM's Green Municipal Fund, and we're key partners in achieving Canada's climate goals. There's so much more potential as well that is ready to be tapped. Scaling up frontline climate action will have a huge impact across the country. As we review our proposals with our federal partners today, we're also laying down a very clear reality check. In fact, we've been clear for weeks. For cities to go all in on recovery, we need federal leadership on an immediate challenge that we face. This is the crisis of 2022 public transit operating shortfalls, driven by depressed ridership in a pandemic that's stretching longer than anybody expected. We need a 2022 solution before the federal budget, because city budgets get finalized first, and cities can't run deficits. Otherwise, we see service reductions that hurt vulnerable Canadians. We will see cuts to climate priorities like fleet electrification, and we'll see cities hamstrung on delivering the recovery that Canadians deserve. And that's why we're sounding the alarm. Let's be clear, we're talking with our provinces about this, but this does require federal leadership so we can get past this crisis and lean all the way in to the recovery. In the weeks and months to come, Canadians will be asking some very important questions about what our post-COVID recovery should look like and about what our shared future should look like. Municipal leaders are central to this conversation. We're ready to work with partners as we always have, and we're ready to help lay the right foundations for recovery, starting in this budget 2022. Now I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Montreal Mayor Valérie Plante.
Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le Président du caucus des maires de grandes villes et maire, bien sûr, d'Halifax, Monsieur Savage. Je tiens moi-même à faire la même introduction que mon collègue concernant les manifestations qui ont présentement cours dans la ville d'Ottawa. Je tiens à dire que pour les maires des grandes villes qui sont touchés par ces nombreuses manifestations à Ottawa, mais ailleurs également, je tiens à mentionner à quel point cette situation est gérée avec beaucoup de professionnalisme et de façon responsable, malgré les défis que ça implique. Évidemment, nous croyons que toute manifestation doit respecter les citoyens, les membres des médias et les mesures de santé en vigueur. Évidemment, également, nous croyons aussi que l'intimidation, les gestes de violence et les symboles haineux n'ont pas leur place dans nos collectivités, dont les manifestations. En terminant, je tiens à donner tout mon support à mon collègue Jim Watson, le maire d'Ottawa. Et ce que nous souhaitons d'abord et avant tout, c'est qu'une solution soit trouvée, une solution pacifique et rapide pour établir un sentiment pour que tous ceux et celles qui sont à Ottawa en ce moment se sentent en sécurité. Maintenant, pour le sujet qui nous occupe aujourd'hui, c'est une première rencontre pour le caucus des maires des grandes villes de la Fédération canadienne des municipalités, qui accueille d'ailleurs plusieurs nouveaux maires et nouvelles mairesses. Et le sujet est important, c'est celui du prochain budget fédéral. Comme toujours, le caucus des maires des grandes villes, on travaille assidûment et en cohérence pour en arriver à proposer, à demander au gouvernement fédéral des mesures qui sont importantes pour toutes nos municipalités, peu importe leur place ou peu importe où on est situé au Canada. Les grands sujets qui nous préoccupent, le premier, c'est celui de l'habitation. On sait qu'il est de plus en plus difficile de se loger de façon convenable au pays, quelles que soient les grandes villes. Et bien sûr, pour les personnes les plus vulnérables, c'est encore plus difficile. Et nous mettons beaucoup d'emphase dans nos demandes concernant l'aide pour les personnes en situation d'itinérance, puisque pour véritablement régler le problème, pour sortir les gens de la rue, il faut un toit au-dessus de sa tête et ça passe par du logement social. Alors, autant le logement abordable que le logement social, mais aussi avec ce regard bienveillant et absolument important vers les personnes les plus vulnérables de notre société. Le deuxième élément, eh bien, c'est celui du transport collectif. Lors du dernier budget, le gouvernement fédéral est venu en aide aux sociétés de transport, aussi au niveau du développement, n'est-ce pas, avec des sommes incroyables. Mais en ce moment, les sociétés de transport à travers le pays ont de grandes difficultés à pouvoir financer leurs activités en raison de la pandémie et de la baisse drastique du taux d'achalandage. Alors, il est absolument important que le gouvernement fédéral vienne en aide aux sociétés de transport, qui sont un des éléments clés pour réduire nos émissions de gaz à effet de serre et joindre nos cibles, atteindre nos cibles ambitieuses en matière de changement climatique, de lutte au changement climatique. Alors, nous demandons à nouveau cette aide du gouvernement fédéral pour soutenir le financement des sociétés de transport qui, en raison de la pandémie, sont en grande difficulté. Enfin, le dernier élément est cette relance économique verte et inclusive que nous souhaitons tous et toutes. Et le gouvernement fédéral peut donner une impulsion, une direction en injectant des fonds pour soutenir des initiatives locales en matière de développement économique vert et durable. Un exemple en est celui de l'électrification qui est vraiment très, très important, mais il y a plein d'autres exemples où on peut vraiment lier ensemble développement économique et développement durable. Alors, aujourd'hui, nous aurons la chance de discuter avec plusieurs ministres qui viennent nous rencontrer pour nous parler de leurs priorités et nous aurons la chance de leur faire part de nos demandes budgétaires qui, encore une fois, vont permettre aux Canadiens et Canadiennes de sortir de cette crise, de cette pandémie plus fort, plus unis. Et c'est bien l'essence du caucus des maires des grandes villes de la FCM, c'est de travailler sur ce qui nous unit pour avoir une voix forte et travailler en collaboration avec le gouvernement en place. Alors, je vous remercie beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup, Madame Plante. We're going to start the question period from the reporters. Sur la liste, j'ai Élise Allard, Radio-Canada, en premier.
Oui, bonjour, Madame Plante. En fait, je vais déroger un petit peu du sujet de la conférence de presse de ce matin. J'effectue un suivi aujourd'hui sur ce que vous avez parlé, sur ce que vous avez annoncé hier concernant vos demandes à Québec, le déconfinement, plus de prévisibilité. Alors, j'ai comme deux questions en une. La première serait, pouvez-vous me rappeler là, les grandes lignes de ce que vous demandez à Québec, mais peut-être aussi à Ottawa en ce qui concerne le déconfinement? Et avez-vous eu des nouvelles, un retour de Québec depuis les demandes d'hier?
Alors oui, ce qu'on demande, c'est de la prévisibilité, donc un plan de réouverture complet avec les règles sanitaires qui y sont associées pour les événements, tout ce qui touche la culture également. Donc, un plan de réouverture complet. On a présentement des éléments de réouverture partielle, mais là, on veut un bon plan de match. Et le deuxième élément, c'est de savoir quelles seront justement les mesures sanitaires qui vont s'appliquer au fur et à mesure que ce plan va être opérationnel. Alors, c'est vraiment de la prévisibilité. Il n'est pas question ici de remettre en question les règles qui sont établies par la santé publique, absolument pas. Il est question de pouvoir se positionner sur le marché international, entre autres pour dire à ceux qui magasinent leur voyage ou des congressistes, de dire Montréal sera ouverte à partir de telle date, avec telle mesure, ainsi de suite. C'est vraiment dans cet esprit-là. Et pour ce qui est de Québec, écoutez, leur point de presse, c'est toujours, je pense que demain, c'est un moment important à chaque semaine où le gouvernement fait état de ses réflexions et de ses directives. Alors, on a encore quelques heures pour se parler, mais j'ai bon espoir que Québec va entendre cet appel de la métropole du Québec qui demande à pouvoir continuer de rayonner à l'échelle internationale.
Mais il n'y a pas eu de communication directe entre vous et Québec depuis hier. La réponse va venir en conférence de presse, c'est ce que vous me dites?
Et on va laisser le gouvernement choisir la façon dont il souhaite me répondre. Je ne vous cacherai pas que des textos avec des ministres, j'en ai beaucoup. Alors, c'est un sujet qui est sur la table comme plein d'autres. Mais au final, moi, je suis en pleine collaboration. Ce que je souhaite, c'est qu'on s'entende sur un calendrier rapidement pour rassurer, mais aussi pour donner la prévisibilité.
Et pas de demande spéciale pour Ottawa?
Des sommes d'argent. Alors, définitivement, quand on pense à la relance économique, un des éléments qu'on avait demandé au gouvernement précédemment, et j'ai envie de vous dire que pour nous, ça demeure important, les grands centres-villes des villes canadiennes, c'est sûr qu'on souhaiterait être considérés comme un secteur d'activité à part entière. Parce que les centres-villes, que ce soit de Toronto, d'Halifax, de Montréal, nous sommes un peu la locomotive économique d'une province. Alors, on souhaite qu'il y ait une attention particulière tournée vers les centres-villes des grandes villes canadiennes.
Merci Madame Allard. David Aiken, Global.
Thank you very much for taking our questions. I'd like to hear Mayor Plante and Mayor Savage a little more on these protests. That's what we're covering today. I'm in our Parliament Hill Bureau, and I've got the trucks right underneath me. I'm wondering if you can say whether or not the Big City Mayors Caucus talked in general terms about this, whether your own councils have talked about this, because I think there's a feeling poor Mayor Watson may not be the only mayor who's going to have to deal with this somewhere down the line. I think actually Mayor Savage, I saw somebody wanted to start a boat protest to block the Halifax Harbor or something. So I'm wondering if I could get the both of you to say, are you worried that it might come to Montreal? It might come to Halifax? Perhaps Mayor Savage first, and Mayor Plante, I'd like to hear you as well.
Thank you, David. You know, this is our February meeting of FCM. It's usually held in Ottawa. We usually have cabinet ministers come and meet with us, and sometimes members of the opposition as well. So as would normally be the case, we asked Mayor Watson if he wanted to say a few words this morning. And really what he just said was, look, we're all working hard to find the best solutions that we can for this situation. And yes, we all are watching it. I think we all personally feel very strongly for Mayor Watson and the work that he's doing. We're taking a professional approach. We know how difficult this is. Certainly any protest needs to respect everybody, public health officials, the people who live in the city, journalists, and everybody else. But we haven't come out with a position on this yet, other than to be personally supportive of Mayor Watson and the work that he's doing, and he's continuing to do that throughout the day. So we were happy to have him with us for a while this morning and express our personal support for him. But that's really all that we would say about it at this point.
Same thing for me. Of course, we are fully supporting our calling in Ottawa, and we want to have a solution, a peaceful solution that will be found rapidly. And as Mayor of Montreal, you know, the state of emergency have been reintroduced in December here in Montreal because we didn't want to leave anyone behind, especially with the Omicron variant that did hit us hard. So my message is very clear that any type of peaceful walking, you know, protest is welcome. Like Montreal is a place where people come and, you know, bring their voice out, and we're comfortable with that. But blocking streets with trucks is no.
Just to maybe probe a bit further, of course, for most budget deliberations or budget conferences, the talk is about getting federal funding for transit and for infrastructure, pipes, and all those things. Is there talk, or would you expect there to be talk that there may now to be need some additional funding for different kinds of policing, different kinds of security, more intelligence operations, given we may be in an era where these well-organized extremist groups may want to come to your town and gum things up for a week and a half?
Well, thank you for the plug, because we are talking about transit. We are talking about environment and the importance of addressing the issues of climate change. And certainly homelessness and housing, which is something that affects all of us and has been exacerbated through the pandemic. So those are the issues that we're talking with ministers about today. For example, on the issue of transit, as cities, we run transit systems that have been really damaged financially because people are less likely to take transit during a pandemic. But those who do include first responders, they're the people who keep our economy going. So the issue of operating costs is really important for us. And that's certainly a conversation that we're going to have this afternoon with the ministers that we're meeting with. So certainly we know what the story of the day is, and we're all keeping a close eye on it, but we're also focused very much on the issues that are going to impact us all. We're all going through budget processes right now. We're all affected by these issues. We all have citizens who are underhoused or not housed. We all have to address climate change. And those are crises that continue to go on and that we need support for.
Thank you very much. Aidan Shamandi, iPolitics.
Hi there, thanks everyone for taking my question. And I believe I was the source of the feedback at the beginning of the presser. So thank you to whoever muted me. Mayor Savage, just wondering, earlier you said you're looking for a commitment before the federal budget drops because city budgets have to get finalized first. So I'm wondering if you guys have a set date or a range of dates by which you need to hear back.
Well, yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Yeah, these are important issues. It's not something we believe can wait for a federal budget because we are going through this process. And just about every big city in the country, if not all the big cities, have this issue of transit operating shortfalls. And the only things that we can do are either reduce service or put it on the general tax rate of citizens. And this is an issue we all share. We all want public health workers to get to work. We want to keep our economy going, the grocery stores and pharmacies and everybody else, doctors' appointments. Many people rely on transit and they can't stop taking it. just because the city's budgets have been harmed. So it's urgent. It's, you know, I can't tell you that it's, you know, February the 14th or February the 28th. I can tell you it's immediate right now. I think that the federal government understand that, and we're also having conversations with our provincial colleagues as well. It's an urgent issue. I mean, the city of Toronto is looking at $500 million to $1 billion shortfall. You know, a city like Halifax, we could be looking at, you know, in excess of 10 million. These are big bits of money for us, and if we're going to keep transit going, we need support from other orders of government, and we need it soon.
Mm-hmm. And just to follow up on that last part, you know, you previously said that you were talking with provinces on the public transit shortfall issue. I'm just wondering if you could elaborate a bit on who exactly you're talking with, what you're saying, and what the response has been.
Well, you'll recall that we had the Restart program, which was supposed to be the program that took us through the pandemic. That's a year and a half ago now. This is how long ago we had the Restart program, which was at the time $19 billion federal, provincial support for municipal governments. And so, you know, we need to talk to the federal government. We need their support. We also recognize that a lot of the supports have come from the federal government, and that we need to include the provinces in that conversation. So that's a conversation for all orders of government.
Merci. Pascal Robidas, Radio-Canada.
Oui, bonjour. La question pour Mme Plante, une question qui n'est pas avec l'annonce d'aujourd'hui, mais cet après-midi, les proches de la famille de Myriam Boundaoui se réunissent à Saint-Léonard, un an jour pour jour après son décès par balle. On aimerait avoir un commentaire de votre part sur cette cérémonie commémorative pour cette adolescente de 15 ans qui a été tuée dans les rues de Montréal.
Écoutez, plusieurs élus seront là cet après-midi parce que c'est un très triste anniversaire pour la famille, mais aussi pour toute la communauté. Alors, je serai là en pensée avec eux et je voudrais aussi ajouter que la notion, ce qui s'est passé, Myriam était là au mauvais endroit, au mauvais moment, mais on ne devrait jamais penser à ça à Montréal. Alors, bien sûr, tous les efforts sont déployés, tant au niveau de la prévention. Et très bientôt, on va vous annoncer plus de détails sur le forum organisé par le SPVM et la Ville de Montréal. Et on a tenu à ajouter un aspect pour entendre les préoccupations et ce qui anime, enfin, je veux dire les préoccupations des familles, des amis, des jeunes, parce que c'est très important aussi de pouvoir les entendre et de les inclure dans cette réflexion qu'on a sur la sécurité à Montréal.
Can you please make the statement in English for CBC Montreal, please?
Yeah, sure. So regarding the moment this afternoon where friends and the community will be remembering Myriam Boundaoui, many elected officials will be there this afternoon for sure because it is terrible. It's a tragedy and it's nothing we want in Montreal. And I wanted to add to this that we are working really hard in terms of prevention, but there's the forum organized by the SPVN and the City of Montreal that we are co-organizing. And one of the aspects that was really important for us and for me was to add to this forum the voices of people that have been affected by tragedy like this in the last months in Montreal, especially our youth. So we'll be sharing more of that. But of course, my thoughts and my heart is with the family and friends and the community this afternoon.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci. Jordan Press, the Canadian Press.
Good, well, I guess it's now good afternoon here in Ottawa and probably wherever everybody else is. Mayor Savage and Mayor Plante, maybe you can weigh in as well, just to follow up on some of the questions about the protests. I'm curious if in any of the discussions that you've had with your fellow mayors, either today or maybe over the last week, if there's been any talk about updating some of your own community plans in handling protests, given what we have seen in Ottawa.
So I'll take it. First of all, thank you very much for the question. This obviously has highlighted for all of us the importance of having preparations in place in our community. And, you know, we've always had protests. Certainly in Halifax, we've had protests for a lot of different things. at City Hall, in the community. We've had them over a variety of topics. Yesterday, we had a truck convoy come through Halifax, and I'm sure that there were others who were considering doing the same thing. So we're always updating our plans to make sure that we are ready for this kind of thing. And of course, we learn from what we've seen in other jurisdictions, including what we've seen in Ottawa and in other cities. It's important for people here to understand that we're working with the provincial authorities, we're working with our police and also with our CMP. I talked to the Premier on the weekend about what to expect here. So everybody's looking at the plans, the emergency plans that they have in place to make sure that they're suitable and that we're learning from previous experience.
Mayor Plante, I don't know if you'd like to weigh in as well, but no. So maybe then as a follow-up, can you just give me a sense then of what maybe lessons learned you've taken from the situation? I know obviously there was lessons learned and they were applied in Toronto, for instance, with Mayor Tory and the police there, the Toronto Police Force. But I'm wondering if you can give us a sense of maybe what lessons you have taken as being learned from how things have been handled in Ottawa.
No, it's true. I mean, there are some obvious things that you might think, but I'm not going to be critical of anything that happened in Ottawa. I know that every time police become involved in a circumstance, they get criticized for being either too heavy-handed or for not doing enough. We all recognize that it's a very difficult job to police. We always want to de-escalate a situation. We also want to make sure that the streets and the neighborhoods are safe for residents. And so that's a goal we have, and we learn from every circumstance that happens.
Merci, thank you. One last question. Anybody, it's your chance. Please include your name in the chat or raise your virtual hand. Jeanne Corrivio, Le Devoir.
Oui, bonjour à vous deux. Je voulais savoir pour les demandes pour le transport en commun pour les grandes villes du Canada, ça représente quel montant que les villes souhaitent dans le prochain budget pour venir en aide aux sociétés de transport?
Oui, bonjour à Mme Corriveau. Écoutez, je pourrais vous revenir avec le montant précis, mais c'est définitivement de l'ordre, que ça soit aussi important que lors du dernier budget, parce qu'on l'a bien vu. Bien qu'on a réussi à remonter un peu la pente là, à partir du printemps dernier, enfin, début de l'été, et l'automne a été meilleur parce que les élèves, entre autres, recommençaient l'école et tout ça, les travailleurs sont revenus, mais c'est retombé de façon importante à la mi-décembre. Et on avait quand même accumulé plusieurs sommes, là, un certain déficit. Alors, ça va me faire plaisir de vous revenir précisément avec le montant qui est demandé, à moins qu'une de mes collègues du caucus puisse répondre immédiatement. Alors, on vous revient, Mme Corriveau.
D'accord, merci.
Madame Corriveau, question de suivi or last chance to ask a question?
Ça va.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup tout le monde. Je vous souhaite de passer une belle journée. Thank you very much for attending. Have a great day.
Thank you.